All right, cool. So, good morning. This is the Reform Mage. I thank you all for joining me today, and I wanted to take a moment to talk about a few things that are typically misunderstood when it comes to Christianity. My hope is that everyone can walk away with a clear understanding of what means they've been saved by, that they can understand the sovereignty of God, that they can recognize the finished work of salvation and the finished work of sanctification. And so I want to go over a few of those topics today. Firstly, I would like to say to anyone out there that is struggling currently in knowing who Christ is or if they're saved, we'll go over that topic. So with salvation, that's a work of God in your life. If anyone out there is sensitive to the idea of their mortality, I would like to let you know that you are saved by grace alone, through faith alone, by belief in the life, death, and resurrection of Christ. The gospel is not a story of God doing something and then bad men become good. It's a story of the Creator coming down in the flesh to atone for the sins of those who would believe. And at the cross, he said, "It is finished." So anyone who believes in the life, death, and resurrection is saved. If you believe that Jesus is the Son of God and that Christ was raised by God from the dead, then that's what it is. That's the box that needs to be checked. But the beautiful thing is we don't have a choice in this matter if we believe it or not. The Lord tells us, judge nothing before its appointed time. So be kind to those who may not believe yet. But in Ezekiel 36:26, the word tells us that I will take from you your heart of stone and give to you a heart of flesh, that you'd be sensitive to my word and follow my law, that you'd be sensitive to it. It doesn't say that you're going to do it perfectly, but the fact that he's the one that steps in and makes that move where he changes your heart from being like the world's heart. It says that the world that is perishing, these things are foolishness to them. The message of the cross is foolishness to a world that is perishing. But to those who are being saved, this is the very power of God. So take comfort in knowing that it's all about the finished work of Christ and that he's the one that begins that good work. Scripture also tells us that there's no good work that I will start in you that will be left incomplete on the day of Jesus Christ. So you go through this process, you have salvation, thank God for that. And then you go through this process of sanctification. And that's the process of becoming more like Christ, being transfigured into the image of Christ through his work. And so I would like you to know that this is, once again, a work of his, and nobody hits the finish line until he brings the finish line to us. For many, death is the most scary, horrific thing that they can imagine. They see it at the end of the road for all of us. But for the Christian, it should be a blessing, because it means that we finally get into a state where we no longer sin against our God. And there's not a much more beautiful situation than that. So I hope that these things comfort you. I'd like to talk a little bit about Christology, if you're not familiar with it, and just make some of you aware that that Christ's story didn't begin in a manger. That was his incarnation in the flesh. But in John 1, it tells us that in the beginning, the Word was with God, the Word was God, and in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. The Word was God, and by the Word all things were made, seen and unseen, and nothing that is seen or unseen was created outside of the Word. And later in John, I believe it's probably chapter 3, chapter 4, it talks about, then the Word became flesh and dwelt with man. So every time that we look around us and we see the world, we see the story in Genesis at creation, all of that was was Christ that we were interacting with. He tells us that you've never interacted with the Father. It was always me. He calls himself I am. He says, before Abraham was, I am. And right there we see that he's presented himself as the Yahweh of the Old Testament. And every interaction they had with God was always with Christ. And that's a beautiful thing. So that, I believe that concludes the some of the smaller things. We could get into the Christophanes, and I could explain that we had different appearances, like walking in the garden, the appearance with Abram before he was Abraham. He was, he made a meal for his Lord because he saw him coming as three. And so there's all these times that we have these interactions with God that we see throughout Scripture. And from the very beginning, it was Christ. And that falls under the Christophanes. A beautiful thing. And so I guess the gist of what I want you to know, if you walk away today knowing nothing else, it's you're a great sinner. We all are. And it doesn't go away. You continue to deal with that very thing throughout the course of your life. But through the faith that he gives you, by his grace, you have grace. And that's a beautiful thing. So trust in the process. It was afforded to Abraham as righteousness that he trusted God. And I think that there's a lot to be said there. So I hope you guys check out the sermons at some point. I've put a few of them up on Foundations, just little things. I may take little key moments of them, turn them into clips, put them on the YouTube shorts. We'll see. But I'm going to hang out here for a minute. I'll probably edit this video in a way that allows me to make a few little shorts out of it. But I would like to also just keep going back on those points. So remember, in Ephesians it tells us you're saved by grace alone, through faith alone, so that no man can boast. It's not by your works that you've been saved. It's by the power of God. It's by the grace of God to cause you to believe. And for the world that's perishing, they see these things as foolishness. But to you who are being saved, you see this as the power of God, the message of the cross. So, some beautiful stuff. Anyways, I hope you guys are blessed. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to seeing you on the sermons. Take care.